want you guys to close your eyes. I want you to picture you have a house, a wife, or a husband, and 2 kids living in the edge of a suburb. One day you notice they're building a new development, and it's going up behind your house. After a while you realize this is a nuclear power plant going up right next to your backyard when your kids play. Now think if there ever was a problem with that facility. What would you do? What would happen to your kids? Do you really want it there? Alright, open your eyes. Scary, isn't it? Nuclear power plants pose a serious threat to our nation. With each new reactor that is built, we are being exposed to the added risk to our people's health and the health of the environment. The continued use of nuclear power plants has 3 main reasons why they should be discontinued. 1 is the risk to human life. 2 is the risk to the environment, and 3 is its hazardous waste that cannot be properly controlled. With these 3 problems, nuclear power should not stay or become a viable energy option for our nation. The risk of accidents affecting people's lives is very real. Already there have been 3 major accidents that have taken, for sure, 30 lives and impacted in a negative way thousands. The accident of Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and the Fukushima power plants have given us more than enough reason to be fearful for our safety. First, let's look at the Chernobyl disaster. Due to a large power surge, a series of explosions rocketed the containment field around the nuclear core. With this explosion, radioactive material was dispersed into the air and created a radioactive cloud that reached as far as Scotland, 24,000 miles away. Just this disaster alone has affected thousands of people across Europe. In even more recent history, lack of disaster planning caused the meltdown of yet another reactor in the Fukushima power plant. A tsunami ravaged the area that held the plant's main reactors and knocked out the power that kept the cooling systems going. With the cooling systems gone, a team went in at their own risk just to fix the problem. In America, we have likewise had our own scare with nuclear disaster. 3 Mile Island had a reactor meltdown due to human error. This error caused the radioactive area around the facility. This area now contains hundreds of different mutations of local life forms. With the threat of mutation caused by nuclear radiation, we should be heavily concerned about the effects facilities have on the environment, as well as the pollutants that come from mining the materials needed to fuel the facilities. As stated before twice now, large clouds of radioactive material have been produced from the meltdowns of reactors in 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl. These clouds have caused countless mutations in the areas around the facilities. Just on the Chernobyl disaster, the few hundred miles around the plant caused all of the pine trees to turn red then die, giving the area the name Red Pine Forest. Along with the trees dying, the wild game in the area became too radioactive to eat, and there was a major food source for a lot of the locals around there. Even today we're seeing the effects of the fallout. Stunted growth of new generations of animals was apparent due to the decreased thalamus gland size. The Norwegian Agricultural Station even had to feed special grain to 18,000 livestock just to make it safe to consume. When uranium is mined, they use a process that is very similar to coal strip mining. The mining practice destroys all wildlife in their area, and also it makes piles of unusable stone that's just left out in the rain. And when the stone is rained on, it's oxidized, creating acid water, which then seeps back into the water shelf and makes water undrinkable. If these environmental problems weren't enough, we have the added problem of having nowhere safe to dispose of the fuel. The most dangerous and detrimental thing to our future generations is how we are planning on disposing of this highly toxic material until it decays and is safe. In a given year, on average, an average reactor goes through 20 to 30 tons of uranium that it has to then dispose of. The only way to dispose of it is to keep it contained until it decays. The problem here is the half-life, or the time it takes to decay, is roughly 24,000 years for its most radioactive element, and longer for its less radioactive elements. Now the current plan is being used to dispose of the waste in America is to take it into underground caves in the Yucca Mountains. The government has chosen this place because it is one of the least geologically active areas in our country. Now, the main problem with this strategy is that the groundwater can seep into where the radioactive material is being held, and the water then becomes so toxic that it will start polluting our natural drinking water. The other danger with Yucca Mountain is the transportation of it to the site. Any accident or mishap along the way would be devastating to the surrounding area. It basically would be dumping pure radiation out into the general public if it ever possibly went wrong. With no other even remotely viable options being thought of, we can really expect and endanger the next 24,000 years of people to upkeep the area and make sure the area's drinking water is uncontaminated. And so, nuclear energy plants should not be created or continue to be used. With all of the risk to people's health and the health of the environment, we cannot afford to continue keeping this material waste growing and hoping that containing it will be fine for future generations. So please, don't promote the future of nuclear power.